Sometimes, the most powerful stories don't start in palaces or offices. They start on the street, beside a man with nothing but a tin cup and lost hopes. It was a bright afternoon in Ouagadougou, the capital city of Burkina Faso. President Ibrahim Traoré had just finished a surprise visit to a local school. As he walked back to his car, something made him stop. On the side of the road, sitting against a dusty wall, was a man. His clothes were dirty and torn. His hair had patches of gray, and his eyes looked tired and sad. A small tin cup sat in front of him, but people passed by without looking at him. President Traoré felt something in his heart. The man looked familiar. He asked his guards to wait and slowly walked toward the man. As he got closer, his heart skipped a beat. "Joseph?" he said, shocked. The man looked up slowly. His mouth opened in surprise. "Ibrahim?" he said, trying to stand up. "Yes, it's me, Joseph. What happened to you?" Tears came to Joseph's eyes. He quickly wiped his face and looked around nervously. "It's a long story, my friend. I never thought I'd see you again, especially like this." President Traoré placed a kind hand on his shoulder. "Come with me. Let's talk." Joseph looked down at his dirty shirt and bare feet. "I'm not fit to ride in your car like this." But the president smiled. "You are my friend, Joseph. That's what matters." At the presidential home, Joseph took a long bath and put on clean clothes. A hot meal was waiting for him. As he ate slowly, he looked at Ibrahim with eyes full of shame and gratitude. After the meal, President Traoré poured 2 glasses of juice and sat across from him. "Now tell me, Joseph, what happened? You were one of the smartest and kindest people I knew." Joseph took a deep breath. "It started 3 years ago." Joseph had been a respected school principal in Bobo Dioulasso. He was hard-working and honest. He had saved money, built a small house, and married a woman named Stella. At first, they were happy. But over time, Stella changed. She was always on her phone. She became cold and angry. Joseph thought she was just stressed. Then one day, he came home early from work and found her in bed with another man. "I couldn't believe it," Joseph whispered. "It felt like my whole world fell apart." Ibrahim clenched his fists. "What did you do?" "I walked out. I was shaking. She didn't even say sorry. She followed me outside, under bridges. I started begging for food. I eat once a day, if I'm lucky. And every time I close my eyes, I see Stella and that man laughing. I became a shadow. I didn't want to live anymore." President Traoré stood up. "Joseph, I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve this. But I promise you, your life will change from today." Joseph looked up with wide eyes. "You still call me your friend?" "I never stopped," the president replied. That night, while Joseph slept peacefully on a clean bed, President Traoré sat alone in his office. He had made a decision. Joseph would not stay broken. He would help him start a new life. The next morning, Joseph woke up to the smell of breakfast. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. The soft bed, the clean sheets, the fresh clothes beside him, it all felt too good to be real. Then he heard a soft knock. A staff member entered with a warm smile and a tray in his hands. "Good morning, sir," the man said kindly. "President Traore asked me to serve you." As Joseph sat quietly at the table, eating his breakfast, his thoughts wandered. Just yesterday, he had been sitting on the street with a tin cup, begging for coins. Today, he was in the guest room of the presidential palace. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in years, he felt something strange. Hope. Later that morning, President Ibrahim Traoré joined him in the garden. He was dressed simply, with no guards around, just kindness in his eyes. The wind moved gently through the trees as he spoke. "Joseph," he began softly, "I couldn't sleep last night. Your story, it broke my heart." Joseph lowered his head. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bring trouble to your peaceful home." But Ibrahim shook his head. "You didn't bring trouble. You brought truth. And that truth must not end in pity. It must lead to action." Joseph looked up, unsure what he meant. "I've made some arrangements," Ibrahim said with quiet firmness. Pain, but there was something new, a spark of life. Ibrahim later drove him in a private car to the edge of the city. They stopped in front of a small but beautiful cream and brown house with a green roof and a little garden. It looked warm, peaceful, and full of new beginnings. "This is for you," said Ibrahim, stepping out. Joseph stared at him. "For me?" "Yes," Ibrahim nodded. "Your new home. Fully paid. No one can ever take it away from you." Joseph's lips trembled. Tears streamed down his face. "Why would you do this for me?" Ibrahim looked him in the eyes. "Because I know who you are. You were there for me when I was a poor student. You gave me your old books. You stood up for me when others laughed. You believed in me before I believed in myself." Joseph shook his head slowly, overwhelmed. "I was just being a friend. And now," Ibrahim said, "I'm doing the same. Come, I want to show you inside." They walked through the house together. The living room was cozy. The kitchen was clean and bright. The bedroom had fresh sheets and soft pillows. But what surprised Joseph the most was the small office space with a desk, a bookshelf, and new books lined up neatly. Ibrahim smiled. "There's one more thing. I've started a small business for you. A bookshop." Joseph froze. "A bookshop?" he whispered. "Yes," Ibrahim said. "You've always loved books. Now you can share that love with others and earn your living with dignity." Joseph sat down slowly, covering his face with his hands. He was crying, but these were not tears of sorrow. They were tears of healing. A few weeks passed, and Joseph's life began to change in ways he couldn't have imagined. With Ibrahim's help, he ran the small school supply store beside the secondary school with care and dedication. He sold pens, notebooks, and books to students every day, and nodded, proud to know him. They respected him, not just for his hard work, but for the way he treated others. Then, one Saturday afternoon, as Joseph was carefully arranging books on a shelf, a soft voice called his name. He turned around and froze. It was Stella, his ex-wife. She looked very different now. The once proud woman had lost her elegance. Her face was pale, and she wore plain clothes. No jewelry, no makeup. She carried a small suitcase with her. "Joseph, can we talk?" she asked, her voice low. Joseph felt a mix of emotions. He slowly walked outside the shop, crossed his arms, and stared at her. "What do you want, Stella?" he asked, his voice steady but cold. Tears filled her eyes. I have nowhere to go," she said quietly. Joseph said nothing. "He left me," Stella continued, her voice trembling. "The man I left you for, he sold our house, emptied my bank account, and ran away with another woman. I lost everything, Joseph." Joseph closed his eyes briefly, trying to hold back the flood of emotions. She had taken everything from him, and now she was standing in front of him, broken and asking for his help. Stella lowered her gaze. "I've come to say I'm sorry, and to ask if I can stay with you just for a little while." Joseph opened his eyes and looked at her. "Stella, I forgave you a long time ago," he said calmly, his voice firm but not angry. "But I've moved on. I have a life now, a peaceful one. You chose your path, and now I have mine." Stella looked down, a deep shame washing over her. "Please, Joseph, even just a room. Please, I have nowhere else to go." Joseph shook his head. "I'm sorry, Stella. I wish you well, but this house, this life, is not yours anymore. It's mine, and you have to find your own way." With that, he turned and walked back into the shop, his heart pounding. For a moment, he felt a weight in his chest. He had forgiven her, but now he was finally choosing himself. That night, he called Ibrahim. "She came back," Joseph said, his voice steady but tired. "And what did you tell her?" Ibrahim asked on the other end of the phone. Joseph took a deep breath. "I told her no." Ibrahim smiled, his voice warm. "I'm proud of you, Joseph." Joseph felt a small sense of relief. "Thank you." Joseph looked at Ibrahim and said, "You didn't just give me a house and a business. You gave me back my—" "Good morning," she said. "Do you have mathematics textbooks for senior school?" "Yes, we do," Joseph replied. "Come with me." She followed him to the shelf, picked out the book she needed, and returned to the counter. As Joseph packed the books, she said softly, "I've seen you before. You help children who cannot afford books." Joseph smiled. "They remind me of who I used to be." The woman extended her hand. "I'm Grace. I teach at the secondary school nearby." Joseph shook her hand. "I'm Joseph. I own this shop." Grace smiled, impressed. "That's wonderful. Your shop is neat and welcoming. We need more people like you in this area." Joseph felt his heart beat faster. He hadn't talked to a woman like this in years. "Thank you. You're kind." Days turned into weeks, and Grace became a regular visitor. Sometimes she came to buy teaching materials, sometimes just to say hello. Their talks grew longer. She brought him lunch sometimes, and Joseph walked her back to the school. They laughed, shared stories, and encouraged each other. Grace had lost her husband 5 years earlier and was raising a daughter alone. She understood pain and healing. One evening, sitting outside the shop watching the sunset, Grace turned to Joseph. "You know, you're a strong man." Joseph smiled. "I don't feel strong. I just feel lucky to be alive." "No," Grace said firmly. "You've been through fire and didn't burn. You still choose to be kind. That's real strength." Joseph looked into her eyes. "I never thought I'd meet someone like you." Grace looked down shyly. "And I never thought I'd smile again the way I do now." There was a warm silence between them. It needed no words. That night, Joseph called President Ibrahim. "I think I've met someone." Ibrahim laughed softly. "Joseph, the lover boy?" "Not like that," Joseph chuckled. "She's different. Her name is Grace. She's calm, wise, and full of light." "Then don't let that light go out," Ibrahim said. "You deserve joy." Joseph took his time. He and Grace grew closer. Her daughter Rachel loved helping at the shop. Joseph treated her like his own, teaching her to read faster, helping with homework, and even making a small reading corner just for her. One sunny afternoon, Joseph took Grace and Rachel to a quiet garden. He knelt down, holding a small ring in his hand. "I don't have much to offer," he said, "but I have peace, respect, and love. Will you marry me?" Men who had lost everything, just like he once did. One of his first projects was building a shelter for homeless men and teaching them skills to start small businesses. "I was once on that street," Joseph would say to them. "But one friend changed my story. Now I want to change yours." Far away, in a small rented apartment, Stella sat alone. She had tried to contact Joseph many times, but he never answered. She went to his shop, but a sign said, "Mr. Joseph is away on family vacation. Shop will reopen next week." She stared at a picture of Joseph, Grace, and Rachel holding hands. Her hands trembled and tears rolled down her cheeks. She had lost everything she once had, and now Joseph had everything she never appreciated. Slowly, she turned and walked down the dusty road, now the one with nothing. Meanwhile, Joseph sat with Grace on their porch, sipping tea. "Do you think your ex-wife regrets it now?" Grace asked gently. Joseph looked at the stars. "Maybe. But it's no longer my concern." Grace smiled and held his hand. "Let's keep writing new chapters." Joseph nodded. "Yes, beautiful ones." Joseph's life had become a story of hope and strength. From a broken man living on the street, he had become a loving husband, a father, and a successful businessman. His foundation helped over 50 men leave the streets and start new lives, Some became mechanics, some barbers, others small traders. All believed again, because Joseph believed in them. One day, President Ibrahim invited Joseph to speak at a youth conference. Joseph sat quietly until his name was called. Dressed in a neat gray suit, he walked to the stage, and the crowd applauded. He shared his journey. I was a man who lost everything, not because I was lazy or foolish, but because I trusted the wrong person. My own wife and her boyfriend took everything from me. I was thrown out and mocked by the world. I had nothing but shame. But one hot afternoon, a man I once helped found me on the street. Joseph paused and looked toward Ibrahim. That man did not walk past me. He remembered me. He picked me up, cleaned me, restored me, and showed me that broken things can be beautiful again. The room was silent. Joseph smiled. Today, I don't seek revenge or wish pain. The best revenge is peace, joy, and moving on. Your story can change if you don't give up. The hall erupted in applause. That evening, Joseph sat beside Grace on their garden bench. Her own life once, but survived. She often stared at Joseph's photo online, his interviews, his happy home, Grace, and it crushed her. But it was too late. The man she thought would be nothing without her had become something greater than she ever imagined. 1 year later, President Ibrahim invited Joseph to the presidential palace for dinner. As they sat in the garden, Ibrahim handed Joseph a small box. "What's this?" Joseph asked. "An award," Ibrahim smiled. "For your work with the Joseph Foundation. You have saved many lives." Joseph opened the box. Inside the box was a golden medal. Joseph stood up and hugged his old friend tightly. "You didn't just change my life," Joseph said. "You gave me the chance to change others' lives too." Ibrahim smiled warmly. "That's the power of one hand lifted in kindness." As the evening breeze swept softly through the garden, Joseph looked up at the stars again. "Who would have thought," he whispered, "that the man with nothing would one day have more than he ever dreamed?" Tears filled his eyes, not of pain, but of joy. The past was behind him. The future was bright. And this time, no one could take it away from him. Dear viewers, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, share with your friends, and turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to know whenever we upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching.